Welcome back to Books with Duddy. I'm back with another spoiler-free review, and this time we are talking about The Crash by Freida McFadden. As I said, this will be a spoiler-free review, so let's get started. If you're familiar with Freida McFadden at all, I'm sure you can guess what type of book this is. We have a thriller. So I will start by just giving a brief setup for the book. And The Crash is about a girl who is pregnant named Tegan, who is driving to visit her brother. And Tegan is like 8 months pregnant, so she's really pregnant. But she gets caught in a snowstorm and crashes her car. And she is helped by a man who takes her back to his house. And that's kind of the setup for the book. If you've read any of Freida McFadden's other books, you know how readable they are in the sense of they're very short chapters. They're always pretty quickly paced, not a lot of fluff. The plot keeps going forward. And this book, The Crash, is no different. Even though overall I think the book for me was a very mixed bag, I couldn't put it down, and I think that's partly to do with the short chapters. It's easy to say, oh, just one more chapter, and partly to do with just how quickly the story moves. So, like, The Housemaid, for instance, this is a very bingeable book, not super long. And one of the issues the book doesn't have is overstaying its welcome. So let's start with our protagonist, Tegan. She is early 20s, and she got pregnant from a one-night stand. She often thinks how an early 20-year-old might think. But like other Freida McFadden books, pretty much everyone in this book is somewhat suspicious. If you're not familiar with Freida McFadden, she's well known for her twists in books. And so I think once you read one of her books, you kind of start looking for those twists in other books of hers, right? And see if you can sniff them out. And one of the issues that I had with this book is that some characters were very... It just felt like, I don't think it's good when characters feel like they're only there to serve the next plot twist. And I think that's where quite a few characters in this book fall short for me. They're just very surface level, and it's almost like they just kind of bide their time in the story until they serve their purpose of, some sort of twist. And then, like other Freida books, there's just some decisions characters make that are just, completely baffling. They just make no sense at all. And I think that's the biggest issue I had with this book, was just the amount of coincidences and of suspension of disability in order to, not sit there and be reading and think, wow, this is just so convenient. It's dumb. And that's why earlier I said it's a mix. This book was a mixed bag for me because I kept reading it and it was very bingeable, but the whole time I was reading it, I was thinking, this is so dumb. None of this makes sense. The characters don't make sense. Their motivations don't make sense. Their goals don't make sense. But I kept reading. So that's, again, where I think this was a mixed bag for me. But like I said earlier, Freida is known for her twists, and there's no shortage of twists in this one. Although I will say that I think this twist was by far the easiest to nail down in any of the Freida books that I've read, and I haven't read too many. In fact, I've only read the Housemaid series. But I guess out of the 4 books that I've read from her, this was the easiest twist to see coming. And that could just be a product of being more cognizant of trying to guess the twists, but it's hard to say. Like I said, if you're just looking for a nice, bingeable book that isn't too dark, but still has its moments, and it's just an easy read, you might like this book. It's certainly not anything groundbreaking in the genre, but it's not a bad book either. As far as my rating goes, I'm very torn on which side of 5 to put this on. I'm going to give this book a 5.1. Since I just kept reading the book, and it was very bingeable, and, it had its trademark Freida moments, I think 5.1 is a fair score from my perspective. Let me know what you all thought of the book in the comments. If you could like and subscribe, I'd appreciate that. And I hope to see you back soon.